And a comic that I can recommend to new readers and old readers would be Catwoman: Lonely City. It's coming out right now. It's written, illustrated, colored, and lettered by Cliff Chang, and it's absolutely brilliant. It gives you, every version of Catwoman that you could want in like a very modern story, and kind of continues her tale into the future, and it's really wonderful and gorgeous to read. So that would be my pick. Catwoman: Lonely City.
If I were to show superhero comics to people who had never read them before, I would probably hand them 3 different ones specifically and ask them which one they like the most. So All-Star Superman. I think that there's a lot of variation in storytelling, and you can find out what's really good to recommend people by what parts they liked and what parts they didn't like. Perez era Teen Titans. True fact, my wife is currently reading them now for my sake because she's promised me to start reading them. She's also annotating them with Post-it notes. So I have a copy of it with just Post-it notes of all of her reactions, so I'm going to read through it afterwards. And then Dangerous Habits, Hellblazer. It is a much darker story than the others. It's a lot harsher, but at the same time, I think that how that rings true to someone would tell me where to go next. Whether they'd be really feeling like that family stuff, or they want like kind of the darker Arkham Asylum sort of stuff. Those 3 comics, I think, are different enough that you can glean a lot of information about kind of what someone enjoys, and also show them that there's a spectrum of comics, that DC comics are as varied as there are readers.
My recommendation for a comic for new readers, if you're just getting into comics, or if you're like looking for something for a kid who's just getting into comics, I have 2 recommendations. One is Shadow of the Batgirl by Sarah Kuhn and Nicole, which is about Cassandra Cain. And I mean, you already know by now that I'm biased, but it's a really fun, really sweet story. And the other one is I Am Not Starfire by Mariko Tamaki and Yoshi Yoshitani. Both of these books are about young girls who are trying to find their place in the world, and trying to establish their own identities aside from what they feel their parents have chosen for them. And I love both of them. They're also very standalone, which is great if you're new, or if you just want a fresh take on the characters.
A lot of people ask me what's a great jumping on comic if they have been exposed to the characters of other mediums and now they want to read comics. And I would say, I think your best bet is to choose the character you love, go to a local comic book store, and ask around and find the best trade paperbacks or the best, comics for sale that month, and just dive in. So if you're a big Wonder Woman fan, go to the Wonder Woman section of the trades and just pick one and see what you get. If you're a Batman fan, Lord knows there's tons of amazing Batman material, from The Dark Knight Returns to Snyder's Court of Owls. I say that your best bet is to go explore.
I have some bias, so I would say DC Pride, just because I think that is a great way to sort of introduce yourself to a lot of superheroes at once.
Comics, I would recommend to a new fan who wants to get started in comics. Absolutely, I happen to have it right here. Galaxy, the Prettiest Star, written by me, with art by the amazing Jess Taylor, is a wonderful introduction to the comics medium. It is a self-contained story. It is, if I may say so, brilliantly written. It is gorgeously illustrated. And I think this would be an excellent first comic for anyone.
I don't know if it's necessarily for younger fans, but I can say as a part of the LGBTQ community, a comic that I loved really was Midnighter. That was a comic that I was working at a comic store when it came out. And as a grown-up queer person, it was so cool to read a comic like that was violent and sexy and mean, but still the main character was in a really loving, vulnerable gay relationship. And it was just such candy for me to have a book that was so much violence and intensity and adult content with also a really great queer relationship. To me, that's the best kind of story.